What's up?
Well, I guess the moment has arrived. I mean, you've been working towards this for a long time, but a couple days out, what's the emotion to feel like for you?
Yeah, I'm just really excited. You know, obviously a big opportunity for me, being on this card, being on the main card. You know, very cool. And yeah, I'm just excited overall. Excited and grateful.
Yeah. I know the decision to delay the fight from December, I mean, obviously there was a lot of anticipation then as well. I guess how difficult was that, and you know, what steps have you taken, I guess, to be right for March?
Yeah, it was tough. You know, I love competing. I want to compete as much as I can and get out there as much as I can. It's you know, my favorite thing that I get to do. So you know, pushing it back was difficult, but it was a good decision. You know, I'm 100% now, ready to go. Had a long camp and put a lot of time and effort into it. So we'll do it up.
The matchup was kept together. I mean, I don't know that it mattered who you fought. People just wanted to see you fight. But did it matter to you that the matchup stayed together?
No, it didn't matter to me. I mean, I'm ready to go regardless of who it is.
And you see all the debate, right? Does Bo Nickal deserve to be on this main card, pay-per-view right out of the gate? What do you say when people, you know, ask, do you deserve this?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny question, you know, because it's like not really my decision. I'm not the one that makes that call, but obviously the UFC thought that it was the right move, and you know, personally, if it does come to my opinion, I think it's the right move too. I think that there's a lot of people that want to watch me, a lot of people that want to see how I fare, and yeah, I think it makes sense. So, you know, obviously they agreed with that, and if other people disagree, then, you know, it's not really up to you either.
Last thing for me, I guess, how do you define success here in your debut? Is it just victory? I mean, can you grind out a 15-minute decision and be satisfied with that, or do you have to keep this crazy streak of finishes going?
I would obviously love to get a finish, you know. I like to fight exciting style and make sure that, you know, I put on a good show for the fans. But, you know, for me, really, success is just being the best version of myself and performing to the best of my ability. So regardless whether I finish him in a minute or win a, you know, decision in 15, I think as long as I perform the best and I feel like I gave 100%, then that's a win in my book.
Well, over here. We had Jamie in here earlier, and when we asked, like, when your name was brought to him, he didn't even know who you were just because he didn't watch wrestling or anything. And he's since gone and, like, looked at your tape and everything, but he still just kind of views you as just, like, a body that he's going to have to fight. Do you think that's the right approach for facing someone like you with what you bring to the octagon?
Probably not. I don't think that's a great approach. You know, I would definitely, before I accept a fight, I do a lot of study and film on a guy. I think that if he actually didn't know who I was and accepted the fight, then that doesn't really like make him look more professional or better in any way. But yeah, it's all good. I don't really care how he approaches it. I'm just focused on what I need to do.
And obviously, you can't really, like, you've been wrestling your whole life. He's brought in fighters like Chris Weidman to, like, help him train and prepare. How much can you learn to face someone like you in this only a short few weeks?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, the idea of, you know, trying to bring someone in to emulate me. Weidman, obviously, super talented, wrestling-based, done a lot of good things. But I don't really think that there's anybody that has the skills that I have that is able to do the things that I can do. And so, you know, maybe that's a good option for him. But as far as options go, there aren't many.
And final one for me. We spoke to your coach, Mike Brown, and he wants a slow rise for you. He doesn't want this rapid ascension. So I'm curious, like, are you going to follow his advice, or how fast of a rise do you want?
You know, it's already been a lot faster than I anticipated. I expected to have quite a few more fights before getting to this point. Obviously, there were different plans in store for me, and I'm just riding with it. And so I trust Mike fully 100%, and I really lean on him and his advice and the advice of my management team, first-round management. And, you know, the people that I'm close to, their opinions really, really matter to me, and they're really weighted very heavily in my decisions. And so I'm really good with whatever the team wants to do, and I feel like that's kind of the approach that I'll continue to take.
Well, going off the back of that, to your right, you know, your name has been linked with, like, the bigger names in this sport already, you know. Is there any part of you that's a little bit disappointed you're not fighting a bigger named opponent for your debut just to make the biggest splash possible?
No disappointment. I love competing regardless of who I get to compete against. And so, you know, being mentioned with the same, with these other people's names and stuff is something that I'm just grateful for. And I feel a lot of appreciation that, you know, people believe in me and they believe in my skills. And so, you know, the opponent, with it being my UFC debut, I I think that it's appropriate, and I think it makes sense. And, you know, I'm 3-0. I've been training MMA for a year and a half, and I'll continue to progress and get better. But at the same time, I don't skip any steps in development, and I'm going to make sure that when I am competing with the best guys in the world and at the highest level, that I'm ready to dominate them as well.
You mentioned professionalism and you mentioned listening to your team and stuff like that. It's clear that's something you value. Do you look at the rest of the UFC and sort of think, nah, there's some guys who just aren't that professional here?
You know, I think coming from my background, being a collegiate athlete at Penn State, you know, the winningest sports program in the NCAA in the last 10 years, not only wrestling but any sport, I think that there's just kind of a different precedent set and there's a different mindset that I have, you know, and that doesn't really have anything to do with me personally. That just has to do with the people that I'm around, the program, and learning from a lot of great leaders and great individuals and people that have achieved super awesome things. And so I just try to soak all of that up. And I think transitioning to MMA, there's definitely a big difference in how people handle things, but it's not really, I don't think it's personal. I don't think it's anybody's fault. It's just the environment they're around. And, you know, I've just been very fortunate to have a lot of good people around me.
Last one from me. You know how hype trains usually go, right? It builds and builds and builds, and then the moment there's even a sort of hint of vulnerability, people say, oh, they're not that good. Is that something that you think about and think, well, I have to dominate everyone I go up against, or eventually people will turn against me, or is that not something you consider?
I would say that it's definitely like I see a lot of people talking and I hear people saying certain things, and it's always interesting to me to kind of observe that because I think I'm my own worst critic. So anything that anybody's going to say to me, I'm already like 2 steps ahead of that. And so really as far as the hype train stuff, I would say that it has, you know, it has to have some effect because I do hear it and I do notice it. And as that is information that is kind of coming in. But, you know, again, there's more pressure put on me from myself than anyone else. And, you know, I want to finish people and continue this hype train because that's just, you know, in me. I just really want to achieve my goals and I want to be the best fighter in the world. And so, you know, whatever anybody says, yeah, it's coming in, I'm hearing it, but, you know, I'm a harsher critic on myself than anyone else could be.
Bo, right here. You mentioned it right there. You want to be the best fighter in the world. You've spoken previously about wanting to be one of the all-time greats. Is it motivating to look up this card and see Jon Jones, someone who a lot of people consider the best fighter of all time? And have you been able to take motivation from that? And have you had any conversations with him?
Yeah, super motivating for me. You know, just I remember being probably like 5th, 6th grade watching UFC events and seeing Jon Jones dismantle people. And so to be on the same card as him is a big honor. I'm very grateful for that opportunity. I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, I was able to meet him yesterday actually at the PI. He tried to take me down, but I obviously stuffed that and ran around, got behind him and stuff. But yeah, you know, again, very grateful to be on a card, and he's definitely a guy that his fighting style I would like to emulate.
Okay, so give us some insight. We don't know the heavyweight Jon Jones. What does it feel like him trying to take you down?
He had a pretty strong grip, but overall, like, it was just straight wrestling, so I had a big advantage. But yeah, you know, he's gonna be fine this weekend, I'm sure. I'm really excited to see him fight. You know, a lot of anticipation with him coming up to heavyweight, and I think that he'll probably put on his best performance ever just because there's more pressure and more eyes, and he's a guy that performs when the spotlight's on him, you know, better than anyone.
And speaking of pressure, coming off the Contender Series, it seemed like a day, a week couldn't go by where your name wasn't in a headline attached to this, that, or the other thing. And some of that, since the other fight fell apart, has slowed down a little bit. Has that been easier for you, maybe taking some of the pressure off? I'm sure it'll ramp up over these next few days again, though.
You know, I always feel pressure. I think it's different than what most people would assume because the pressure for me, again, it all comes from me. It comes internally. Regardless of what people think of me, like, I want to be the best. That just comes from me and my heart and what I'm passionate about. And so I feel pressure every single day when I go in the training room. I'm obviously training at American Top Team, sparring with really high-level guys, and I feel like I just want to get better and better and better and keep improving. And so, you know, I'm nervous not only, you know, for a real fight, but I'm nervous in training because I just care about it so much, and I put everything into this. And yeah, no, now I get the opportunity to kind of show what I've been working on and continue to get better.
Bo, over here.
Right here.
How much does it help? You talked about being an American top team, getting to train over there. How many just really good middleweights are there? You've got Johnny Eblin, Dalton Rasta. Like, you really have, some of the best training partners you could have. How much does that help this process of, you going from a year and a half to, making your UFC debut?
It helps a ton, right? Iron sharpens iron. Everybody knows that. And it was the same mindset for me coming from high school to college, going to Penn State, where there's the best wrestlers in the world there. I get to train with the best guys day in, day out. And now, moving into MMA, it's the same thing. Train at American Top Team with the best middleweights in the world, having the best coaches in the world. It's super exciting and something that I really appreciate. I'm grateful for. And so every single time that I train, I'm fully 100% focused, all in, and I really love it. And so, yeah, just overall very grateful for all the people around me again.
And coming from a collegiate wrestling background, what have you made of sort of this Dagestani takeover in the UFC with, Umar Nurmagomedov, Islam Makhachev? Like, I'm sure you're paying attention to that. What do you think of what they've been able to do in the sport?
Yeah, it's awesome accomplishments that they've had. Those guys compete at such a high level. I think that, the way they compete, I enjoy that intensity. I enjoy seeing the way that they structure their training and really the way they live their lives. Obviously super disciplined and fully focused, all in on and committed to their goal. And so, that's something that's very exciting in the sport, to see people that I think honestly have a very similar mindset to what I have and a similar mindset to what we preach at Penn State. And so, seeing the way that they compete and how high level they've gotten, it's exciting for me because, I want to take my team at American Top Team, Happy Valley, and at Penn State and be the next wave of strong grapplers to come up and start challenging those guys.
The focus is on Saturday. What are some of your goals this year? Is it keeping active? Is it getting in the rankings? What are some personal goals that you have for your career so far?
Personal goals for my career, like you said, first and foremost, focus on this fight. It's been really interesting just kind of going through fight week for the first time and seeing all the ins and outs and everything that goes into it. It's a lot. So, yeah, thank you to every single person here for putting your effort into it because, for me coming in from a wrestling background, we get a little bit of attention, but to see all the attention that's on the media and with that comes with this is just incredible. But yeah, to move on to my goals, I would say I would like to fight, a few more times this year, stay active, and yeah, then probably just, keep getting better. Like I said, my main goal is to just keep improving every single day, and I think that every single fight that y'all will see a completely different fighter out there.
Last one for me. Obviously, you got a long ways to go in terms of your UFC career, but we're hearing Khamzat Chimaev coming up to 185 again. Down the line, how exciting of a matchup would that be facing him just with your styles?
It would be huge. I think that obviously he has a lot of attention. He's probably, the biggest, most hyped guy coming up right now that hasn't won a belt yet, and I think that eventually us clashing is inevitable. So, that's something that I visualize in my training, and when I'm in a hard workout, getting my last bike sprint in, getting my last rep in the weight room, I'm visualizing that. And so, whether that fight comes in a year or in 3 years or 5 years, whatever it is, I'll be ready. And I do a lot of visualization, and I see that fight happening in main event in Raider Stadium, and in front of whatever 100,000 people, and I think it would be the biggest event in UFC history. So, only time will tell whether or not we actually get that, but I'm doing everything in my power to make that happen.
Hey, bud.
Hey, Bo, right here in the back. Very back, I know. Bo, is it difficult not being the only two-sport athlete famously named Bo?
I wouldn't say difficult. Definitely enjoy watching high-level athletes compete, especially Bo. So, I watched Bo Jackson 30 for 30, and it was pretty sick. So just, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I'll be able to continue the namesake and do it some honor.
I know that there was once a series, Bo knows takedown, so you haven't necessarily shied away from it, but is it a little annoying people now? Does Bo know striking? Does Bo know MMA?
I don't think it's annoying. I think the only thing that's annoying is Nike has that copyrighted, so I can't use it, but it's all good.
Final question. Since you shaved your head, how are you dealing with the cold front that's been hitting the western coast?
Man, it's crazy. I'm coming from PA in the winter, and I'm like, all right, nice. I got to go to Vegas and enjoy this warm weather, get some sun. And then I come out here, and this is what I get. So it is what it is. But, yeah, the shaved head definitely feels clean, so I'm ready to rock.
Bo over here. You're one of the largest favorites in UFC debut in history. How does it feel to have the support from the odds makers?
Pretty crazy, you know. Definitely feeling a lot of support. Obviously, they believe in me, think I can win, and overall, my transition to MMA. There's been some talk about people hating on me, this and that, but I would say like 95% of the interaction I get is super positive, and a lot of people believe in me. They believe in what I'm doing, especially once they get to know me, maybe listen to some interviews and hear my thought process or get to see videos of how I train. So. Overall, I think that the reception's been super positive. It's something that I'm grateful for, and I think that's reflected in the odds.
You're minus 1,400 to win the fight, which is a pretty high price to pay. How do you see yourself winning this fight?
I expect to finish. Obviously, I want to go out there and get the finish. I think everybody says that, but for me, that's definitely stays true, and I think. I think I said minus in my contenders fight that a minus 3,000 was a steal, and I feel the same about minus 1,400 for the win. But yeah, I would predict a finish for sure.
All right, you talked about the excitement on being on the Jon Jones card. Let's talk about that main event. Who do you have winning it in the main event?
I got Jones 100%. No doubt in my mind that he's gonna. Obviously, he had a long layoff, hasn't fought in a while, but I think that. He's going to go out there and perform really well. He's a guy, again, that when the pressure's on, he performs the best, and he just knows how to fight. So I knows how to win, and I think that is even bigger than being a great fighter is he knows how to win. And so I predict him getting the win and, doing it in spectacular fashion.
Right there. So you talked about visualization. And this not being a fight night, being inside T-Mobile Arena, sold out, and a Jon Jones card, so there's going to be 1 million people in there. How do you visualize how you react to the crowd and just the environment and just how big of an event this is?
Yeah. I think the important thing about visualization is making it really real, making it really a visceral experience. So, I think that there's technique that goes into visualization just like there's technique that goes into fighting. And so for me, it's making the experience as real as possible, imagining not only what I'll see, but what it's going to sound like, what it's going to smell like, what the concrete's going to feel like underneath my feet, what the cage is going to feel like underneath my feet, and just making it as real as possible for me. So, when I go in there for the first time, it really won't be the first time because I've imagined it so many times in my mind, and I think that's just a very powerful practice.
And then along the lines of that, what are some of your teammates and your coach told you about what it's going to be like? That whole adrenaline dump, they talk about that as well. But the fact that, this is a huge, huge card.
Yeah, I think that I haven't got too much advice because I think my teammates and coaches have just continued to say, be yourself. I feel like I'm prepared for this moment. I feel like, 4 years of college wrestling on top of, 15 plus years of wrestling as a youth that I'm ready for this moment. I feel like I've had a slow build to get here. A lot of people are just thrust into this spot with no previous life experience. But for me, I'm 27. I've competed hundreds of times in front of sold out crowds, and that's just something that's normal for me. I was 19 years old competing in sold out Madison Square Garden. I've competed in front of 30,000 people on a regular basis, and so. I know it's definitely bigger. I don't want to diminish how big this event is because it's definitely the biggest event that I've had a chance to take part in. But with that being said, I feel fully prepared for this moment. I feel better prepared than almost anybody to step out there and do my best.
Dang, and lastly, for me, competing at Madison Square Garden as an amateur, that's dope. But the fact that you're fighting in Las Vegas, fight capital of the world, in the UFC, and you come from a wrestling background, did you ever think that you would be in this position as a kid?
As a kid, I didn't really think about fighting too much as a kid. I always loved fighting, and I would watch all the events and mess around with my friends and fight and stuff as a kid, so I always loved fighting. I would say that the first time that I was sure I wanted to fight was probably halfway through my college wrestling career, and I just decided, I was kind of deciding, am I going to just wrestle or am I going to fight? And then I was doing a camp and had some jiu-jitsu guys that were like, yo, you want to roll with us? And they just basically 10 of them rotated in on me for an hour, and I was like, this is really fun. I definitely want to learn more about this, and I definitely want to fight. And so from there, my goals are always the most almost unattainable, unreachable, highest type of goals you can achieve. So, going into college, it was to be a 4-time undefeated national champion. And now going into MMA, I want to be the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. And so I definitely envision myself getting to this point. It's happened really quickly. I've only been training, like I said, a year and a half. And to get to this point now is pretty crazy. But I do feel like I did envision myself getting here, at some point.
Appreciate it. Thank you.